good morning. This is the Formless Podcast number 45. I'm Dustin and got Tyler, a superhuman, here with me this morning, ready to rock and roll. So as we're starting to talk about it before we recorded, so I'm a sugar merchant. I sell sugar.
That's the term. Then,
yeah.
Slang street term.
Slang street term. No, I sell soda, and so it's incredible. It's an incredible company. They like really take care of their employees. It's really awesome, but it's a huge corporate enterprise, and I have not done that for 17 years. I haven't worked with it in a huge corporate environment, and there's so much stuff going on. But anyway, what they did this week and what they're doing next week as well is a whole technology upgrade. So I have an iPhone and an iPad that I carry with me everywhere I go when I'm working. And everything is done on those two things. And if one of them is down, like I experienced Friday, everything stops.
Everything grinds to a halt.
Like I am dead in the water. So my phone, and I've had these since April. I get, they give them to you and they're like, okay, set up your passwords and stuff. And I have an employee number, a password, and another number that allows you to like log in and see your pay, like how many hours you worked and holiday pay and all of that stuff, and like how much you're spending in taxes and in insurance. So that's a separate number from your employee number.
Okay.
And then you have a password for all your tech, all your phones, your iPads and stuff. Well, I set them up, and their default setting is every time you turn them on, you have to enter your password. And it had to be like 8 digits, a special symbol, uppercase and a lowercase number. And it was just
one of those easy passwords.
Yeah. Well,
just kidding.
After like a whole 2 days of doing that punch in, and you're looking at it every stop, at least every stop, and more if somebody's calling you or texting you, right? So punching in this number every time. And it's like, okay, after 30 seconds of doing that, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out another way. Well, I did the face authorization on the phone and the fingerprint reader on the iPad.
Okay.
Well, Friday, I'm doing my thing, I'm working, and all of a sudden my phone goes, can't authorize the face thing. You have to use your password. It must have did an update or something when I wasn't looking. And I'm like, okay, cool. Go punch my password in. It's like, nope, not the right one. And you know how you do something and you've done it 1,000 times and you have like an error?
Yep.
And for me, my brain just kind of like grinds to a halt. Like everything just stops. And I go, that's the right password. I'm pretty sure it's the right password, right?
As it's telling you no.
Yeah,
no,
so
incorrect.
I punch it in again, like thinking I just typoed it because I did it so fast, Wrong. Well, I do this about half dozen times, then it locks you out for a minute.
Oh, no.
And Friday is the hardest day of the week for me. It's the longest day that I work, and it's already kind of stressful because there's a whole bunch of stuff happening, and I'm trying to like keep my cool, stay calm, and just not let anything bother me. And it doesn't work.
Oh.
So 1 minute locks me out for a minute. I'm like, okay, no problem. It's just 1 minute. I'll use this minute to like get myself back to normal and do something else. Like I'm trying to stay positive, right? Do something else. Minute passes by, punch it in again. Locked out for 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I need to contact somebody and let them know I'm having trouble before this gets too bad, because it's going to lock me out again if I do it, each time progressively longer. Those of you that are iPhone users know this. I grab my phone because like all of my contacts are in it. I'm like, oh crap, I can't contact anybody. I can't text anybody. I can't call anybody. They can call me, but I can't touch anything.
Because you're locked out.
I'm locked out. So after a minor panic attack, I grab my iPad and I send an email to my boss. I'm like, hey, I'm locked down on my phone. I'm having trouble. I need help. I can't do work. Like I punch in, I punch out for my phone, I punch out for lunch, all of that stuff's tracked. It tells me all the stores I got to go to, all that sort of stuff. So he emails me back about 10 minutes later like, oh, I can't help you with that. You have to contact IT. And I'm like, I can't contact IT. I can't use my phone.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so he
goes from bad to worse.
Long story short, it was 5 hours before I got my phone to work.
Wow.
Yeah, I contacted the IT guy from my personal phone, and he's like, who's this? What's your ID number? What's your employee number? What's this? And I'm like, luckily I use those every day, so I had those memorized. But like I hadn't used my password for my phone or my tablet since my first day of work, because I set up the face authorization and the fingerprint reader and promptly forgot the password for my phone. Apparently it's gone. I don't know. I don't recall any of it. So yeah, so now I got the phone working kind of. I can do a password. I have a new password for that. But the fingerprint or the face authorization won't work. And I don't know if it was like a safety thing that company IT did and was like, oh, we can't do this anymore. And they just shut it off and didn't tell anybody. I have no idea. So that's the fun stuff that I've got going on.
Wow. That
sucked.
Would be incredibly frustrating.
Oh, dude, it was incredibly frustrating. I ended up, according to the app that I use for my clock in and out app, it said I took my lunch, which is only supposed to be a half hour, was like 250 something minutes.
That's a long lunch, man.
Mm-hmm.
What were you eating?
Yeah. So I had to like email my boss and be like, hey, I only took a half hour lunch. I clocked out at this time. I'm supposed to clock back in at this time, and it didn't work. So
man.
Yeah, it was a really frustrating day.
What do you think? So like on that with what do you think we all learn from these experiences. Yeah. Like what was the learning experience from that?
It was like at a certain point I was just like, I have to do what I can.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to. I obviously I can't use my phone right now, so I'm gonna continue, because if I don't, like I'm going to be working until 10 o'clock tonight. So right. Like I just had to put it away and hope that the IT guy gets back to me. It's like I was completely locked out. There was nothing I can do.
Wow. So
at that point, it just kind of, after I had my freak out, it was just like, okay, well, got to do what you can.
Yeah.
It's not, the output that you want is not going to be where you want it to be. So accept the fact that it's not going to be 100%. It might be 75% or 50% if you're lucky, and just, that's going to have to do it today,
That's a really good point.
Yeah. It sucks because I hate that. I'm very much, my wife calls it on the spectrum when it comes to stuff like that. Like I have my set patterns.
Right.
And
if it's disrupted.
It disrupts, like it's not on my list. I can't do it. Like it just, everything grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
And that, my neuroticism there was like, took over. And like, this doesn't work. It must fit. It must be fixed. It has to work now. And I had to kind of like come to terms with the fact that it wasn't on my timeline anymore. It's on somebody else's timeline.
Yeah, and you just gotta move on.
Move on, and move on, and don't worry about it right now because can't fix it. So, because like if I could have, I would have. If I could have fixed it, I would have right away. And it's no factor. But like, I did not have the tools necessary to fix it. So it was like, okay, time to move on. And that sucked.
It sucks. That's such an important thing to have to work through. You know, I mean, anything from, you know, in this day and age, people that they maybe leave to go on a day trip somewhere, like out of town on a day trip.
Yeah.
And somebody forgets their cell phone at the house.
Oh, yeah.
Or forgets their wallet. It's like the whole day. Usually that person's frazzled and just like can't focus, and they keep going back to, I'm guilty of this too, you know, I would. And so, but it's so important to just be able to be like, oh, my phone's not working right now. I've just got to move past that.
Yeah, and do what I can. It wasn't like it totally...
It can't hold my day hostage.
Yeah, and for a minute there, it started to. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to lunch. I'm going to eat lunch, try and calm myself down, and then get back to it. You know, and I'll figure it out. And if it's not working, well, then I'll just have to come up with a plan B and figure that out. Luckily, I was still able to like see where I had to go, and so I knew like what the itinerary was, and I could still write orders because I do all of that off the iPad. Had it been reversed, I'd have been completely dead in the water. I would have basically just been like, well, either I have to go home because I can't write orders, or somebody's going to have to like let me borrow their iPad, or I'm going to have to call them into somebody so they can enter it. You know, I don't know what would have happened in that situation, but thankfully it happened the other way around.
Where you had the iPad.
Yeah. But now my iPad's all jacked up, so I don't know what's going on.
Time to learn another lesson.
Yeah. So I just set it down and came here today.
just kind of dump it for the day.
Yeah. I texted the IT department, which is probably closed on the weekends anyway, but I texted them and let them know. So hopefully when somebody gets there Monday morning, they can see it and go, "Oh, hey, you need help," because that's another can of worms. But that's Monday's problem. So I'm trying to let it. I just have to let it go.
It'll
ruin me if I don't.
Yeah, it's those things, those little things you just gotta let go. And I know I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. And yesterday I needed some Gorilla Tape.
Yeah.
I needed some tape some Gorilla Tape for a project. And I was like, man, I know I've got one roll. Where's my other 1.5 rolls? And I couldn't find them. And it was bugging the heck out of me, and I'm tearing apart storage boxes looking for this roll of tape.
Yeah, that's what, $5?
Yeah, $5, but it was still bugging me, and I was like, this is so dumb. I got to just let this go, and I figured out another solution to what I did, and it was like literally as soon as I kind of like let it go and I wasn't dwelling on it, I was looking around in my storage area and I spotted the tape. It was right there, but it was after I let it go.
Yeah.
And I just said, no, I don't care about this anymore. I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do it a different way. And it's, you know, the simple solution would have been like, I go out and buy another roll of $5 tape, but I was like, no, I want that roll of tape. I know I've got a roll. You know, we all do that.
All the time. You know, I was listening to somebody the other day, and they were talking about, you know how when you're looking for something like your tape and you lose it, and your first reaction is to be like, who moved my stuff?
Right.
Like, who misplaced it? Because I sure as heck wouldn't have ever done anything like that, right?
Right.
And that's basically what it is. It's like it's this... passing the blame onto somebody else so we don't have to face the fact that we are the cause of our own problem there, you know? I thought that was really, really interesting. And it hit home. I just listened to this. I was on a podcast, I think, somewhere. Maybe it was Jordan Peterson. But it's funny that, like, how you listen to something in the right frame of mind, and you're like, oh yeah, that I should remember this so I don't do this next time. and then just a few days later, the exact thing happens, and I completely lose my crap.
Yeah.
It is, life is funny that way though.
But you were able to kind of set it aside and move on.
Yeah, it wasn't an immediate thing. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm done. It took a little bit. Like, I probably sat there for a good 20 minutes trying to figure out the password, and I knew that I was entering the password in my head correct. I knew the one that I had, I knew I was typing it in right, because I did it 100 different times. I did it slow and made sure I got everything. But at that point, I was so one-track minded on this one particular password that even though I knew it wasn't the right one, because I had already entered it multiple times, more times than I'd care to admit, I kept going and kept re-entering the password until it locked me out for, like I said, 4 hours.
Oh, man.
At that point, it was like, okay.
This one doesn't work.
This one doesn't work. And I knew it didn't work. I mean, obviously, I'd done it. I don't know how many times you have to enter a wrong password on your iPhone for it to lock you out 4 hours. But, yeah, it was a humiliating experience. Good thing I was the only one in the car.
The people driving by, you see this really upset guy at his phone.
I was, yeah. And it's like, how many times do you have to bang your head against the wall before you realize that hurts?
The steering wheel.
The steering wheel, wall, window.
But isn't that a funny concept that, like, we talk about this in class sometimes. Sensei will talk about this. He'll be like, well, if I throw a certain punch at your head and you block it,
yeah,
and then I throw the same punch again and you block it, like, should I keep throwing that punch?
Same exact
strike? No, it doesn't work because they just keep blocking it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's such a hard concept to sometimes get through.
And it's one of those things too that, like, if you would have asked me Monday morning if I would run into a situation like that again, where I just keep doing the same mistake over and over again and trying and hoping that I get a different result, I would have told you that I had moved on from that. Like, I think my ego would have been like, no, I've recovered from that. I'm better than that now. And I honestly, I think if I'm being honest, I think I would have said something to that effect of how, like, no, that doesn't affect me.
I'm past that.
Yeah, that was my own little humble pie eating episode there,
You were essentially walking up to the front door and trying to stick a key in the lock, and you're like, why doesn't this key go in?
Yeah, exactly.
I know this is the front door key. Why isn't it working?
And it's like the car key or yeah. It was ridiculous. It was completely ridiculous. And I kind of wonder, like, I probably had to do that to that extent, to where then I was like, okay, obviously you're being dumb and you're not going to fix this, and, like, you need to move on. And I think that there was, you need to move on. Like, obviously that you're not going to make this better by punching the same password over and over again.
No, and taking a deep breath and saying, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And taking a step back and examining the situation. And I know in those moments we're just like, I know it should work. This is it.
Yeah.
And I think I had something with an online banking password the other day, and I was like, I had the same thing happen. I was going through, I had a couple of lists of how, does anybody else do this besides me? We have so many passwords these days, right? You make like a document.
I have an app in my phone with, like, a password for everything.
They have an app for that?
No, it's a notepad app.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have, like, okay, bank password, and then I have, like, Netflix password, and, all of these, because And then I have like all my kids' passwords and stuff because I've set up different accounts for them, and they're like, oh, what's my password? I forgot. Hold on, scroll through my phone and find it. And
it has to be some wacky 10-digit with 4 numbers and a special
alphabet, special character.
So I had So I had like 3 different documents or 4, I don't know, but like in the last couple months I've been like, and when I got some free time, I'm like, okay, let's consolidate this into one master list. Somehow I ended up with multiple lists with sometimes different passwords. So I was like going through and consolidating, and I was like, okay, new file, master list, and I know most of them, I use regularly. So I'm like, okay, like I know, and I would go back and forth between the two different lists and be like, okay, this is my Netflix password here, this is my Netflix. Okay, they match up, so it's got to be the same one, And so I went through and then I came to one of my online banking passwords, and I was doing the same thing. Like I looked at the password. I had one password on one list and one password on another one.
Oh, they were not the same?
No, they weren't the same. So I was like, well, we got to try this out. And so I went on the website and I entered the information for one password, and it's like, nope, your email or password is incorrect. And I was like, crap. So I re-entered the same thing, you
just
could
double
mistype,
check, make sure you didn't
mistype, or you didn't caps lock or didn't shift and capitalize, whatever. And so entered that. Okay, no, that's wrong. Okay, let's try the other password. And so then I was like, okay, did the same thing. Oh, incorrect password, incorrect email. And I'm like, what the heck? And so then I did it again, with the second password. Nope, it's all wrong. And I was about ready to throw the computer through the window. I know these is one of them.
It's gotta be.
But I chose better, and I took a deep breath, and I just went, okay, we can figure this out. And so I went back to the main website page, and what I found that I was trying to do is I was trying to enter it on the wrong page with the wrong information. Like I was trying to do my personal online banking page
with the
business password and business ID, and I was in the wrong place. I got on the right page and I entered. I was like, I think this is the password. That's the right one. I entered it. Boom, logged me right in. But I was literally on the wrong page. That happened 2 days ago. So kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was on the wrong. I was trying to enter on the personal banking page, my business online.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Password. Yeah. So it was like, nope, not having any of it. And I was like, so that was a lesson. And I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. Kept going through my list and, making sure that the passwords match up. And I finally deleted that list. And I was like, yes, good. Okay, I'm free. What else can I do? And I was like, well, let me take one more look through my files. I found another password list. So I had to go through it all again real quick, but most of the passwords were the same.
Oh, man.
So, but anyways, similar thing. But it took me just taking a deep breath and being like, am I entering this information on the right page?
Yeah. Fun.
So...
I had a work program at my old job that would you had to have a password, okay? No big deal. But every 3 to 4 months, it would make you change it.
Right.
And it kept a list of your old passwords. So you couldn't use your old password. So it got to the point where you're running out of stuff, right?
You're making stuff
up, or you're going, for example, the first one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next one will be 2, 3, 4, 1, and then 3, 4, 1, 2,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. You go all through all of these different patterns, but of course it has to be a certain amount of numbers, a certain amount of letters, certain capitalized letter, so many lowercase letters, so many symbols. It was just ridiculous. And bottom line, the people that require you to have passwords because there's thieves and miscreants in the world suck.
Yeah. Yep. Those passwords.
So anyway, things
were a lot simpler 20 years ago when we didn't have all these passwords.
Yeah.
But we have a lot more efficiency with things that we do.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes though if it's more efficient or just easier.
Yeah.
It's like some stuff's definitely more efficient, and you can keep track of information and that stuff. But at some point, I'm just like a little overkill for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, and so some of those things where it's like, what the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, I'm throwing a kick at someone's head and they block it. And then I'm like, oh, that didn't work. I'm going to throw a kick at their head again, the same kick. Oh, that didn't work, But then the reverse of that we talk about in karate class is, well, if I throw a kick at someone's head and they don't block it and it works, why would I change?
Yeah.
I just throw another one, whap,
yeah.
whap, they're not blocking, it's one of those things, it's opposites.
There's a dichotomy.
A dichotomy, is that the right word?
Definitely a dichotomy there. Well, I'm sure, I think so. I'll have to look that up.
Email us and tell us.
Yeah. Oh, good times. But there's lessons to be learned everywhere, and I think that one, that particular lesson was important for me to learn because I had somewhere forgotten it down the road, and
nice little refresher.
It was a refresher course. Yeah. I'm probably still learning that lesson. I might be learning that one for the rest of my life, I think. But what are you gonna do? I can't let that make me quit or give up. No. I can't just give up hope, right? Like, oh, white flag of surrender. I'm done. Doesn't work that way. Can't work that way. Hey, let's change gears here, though. I want to, last time we talked with Sensei Long, and you were doing the 75 hard. Should I even bring that up?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. So yes, we can. So I was on it, going solid, and right about day 9, it was about day 9, somewhere around there, I was doing the two 45-minute workouts a day. I was doing the drinking the gallon of water a day.
Yeah.
Reading your 10 pages of reading a day. I was doing everything that was on the list, sticking to my diet. And then right around day 9, my leg, the
one
leg
that you broke?
That I broke, yeah, the leg that I got a spiral fracture on last year while hunting. I slipped and fell. That leg, and I've been running on it, and building its strength back up, jogging, I should say. Jogging, running, doing exercise on it, and all of a sudden one day I just woke up and I was like, man, this really hurts to be on this leg. And so I was like, I need to stop this, just because like my leg was actually really hurting, and it just hurt just to walk anywhere. Oh. So, and it actually started around probably day 6, day 7, and it started, it would hurt at night, you sleep, you wake up, it's a little bit better, and then you work out your 2 workouts. And I was doing my jogs, push-ups, flutter kicks, sit-ups, those types of things. And so right about day 9, my leg, it kind of just didn't give out, but I kind of was like, okay, I need to stop
I'm going to hurt this before,
I'm now going to be doing more damage if I continue this program. So I stopped with the exercises. I have not stopped the diet.
Oh, okay.
The diet thing, still on that. I'm loving it. I feel way better. I'm not drinking any soda. Not that I was ever like a heavy soda drinker, but I'm not drinking any soda, really limiting sugar and carbs. And so I'm still kind of partially on it, my way of doing it.
Yeah, just not the intense
not the intense
right now.
So I backed off, and I was like, and I'm still doing my reading when I can, but it really was kind of like a hit to have my leg just kind of like really go into some pain, and I was like, okay, I've got to stop and back off. And so I'm gonna back off for a while, and I'm gonna go back on it at some point. Regroup it. And you got to take a picture of yourself every day, and I was doing that.
Really? Like a selfie?
A selfie,
like a progress pic or whatever they call it.
A progress report picture, yeah. And so, Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. And man, doing 2 45-minute workouts per day, really, it was tiring, but in the mornings, it made it easier to get up. When you're constantly working out, I would do my jog in the morning and then maybe in the evening another jog. But then when my legs started hurting, I was like, okay, jog in the morning and then a walk at night. I would go for a 45-minute walk. It's almost like I started making my workouts less intense, and now I'm doing a walk even on my leg that's now hurting.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't regret it at all. I was just like, whoops, I gotta listen to my body now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and if you don't do that, you're just gonna hurt yourself. So.
You're just gonna hurt yourself.
No,
so.
that's cool though. I mean, it still sounds like it was a benefit, even though you didn't go through with the whole thing. You still started back up like reading and doing, eating
Diet.
healthy and that sort of thing. So I think anything you can get out of any type of program or challenge like that, where you are creating more good habits than bad habits, is a win. I mean, okay, so you didn't do 2 45-minute workouts. Big deal. You still did something.
Yeah.
You still did something on the positive track, and I think that's more important than just sitting on the couch watching Netflix.
Oh man,
which is easy to do, right?
It's so easy to do. The one thing that I really enjoyed and still enjoy is the reading, and you're supposed to read 10 pages of self-development per day. And so I would force myself to read, and I was reading. So what I picked up another book on screenwriting. I'm a filmmaker and want to write more screenplays and make more movies. And so I was reading another newer book, or another book that I had just acquired on writing screenplays. And it was interesting. Reading 10 pages per day almost made it to where I was like, okay, that's the right amount to where, like, say, when I was younger, I could breeze through 100 pages in one day, reading. Yeah. But how much do you retain when you breeze through that much? But when it's, as far as I know, on the 75 hard thing, it's not bad to go over 10 pages. It could be, I don't know. But I was just like, nope, we're keeping it at 10 pages right there. Boom, that's the sweet spot. And then I would find out the next day that I'd be thinking to those 10 pages I read the night before.
You retain more of it.
Yeah.
Than as opposed to like just binging the whole book.
Binging the whole book. And there was one day while I was on the 75 hard that I actually did read 100 pages of that book. And I looked back and I was like, I didn't retain it all.
I missed some of this.
I missed some of it. So almost like 10 pages a day for me was like just enough to stick.
That makes sense though. It makes sense. Like when you start some new project and you have like all of the, like a movie, for instance, I'm sure the list of things that has to get done is a mile long. And if you take it all at one shot and try and pass it, it's not going to work. So you have to break it down into bite-sized chunks.
Bite-sized chunks.
Like
pace it.
Yeah, but like you can't just be like thinking about the end of the movie when you're starting at the beginning. Or
right.
It's like, okay, well, what do I have to do first? Before I can get to this part, I have to do this. And life is that way. There's a lot of things in life that you're like, okay, I need to clean the garage so I can park the car in there. But before I do that, I got to find a place for the old couch that the neighbor left, or the refrigerator needs to be moved. There's like all of this stuff, and it gets overwhelming.
And that's when people get overwhelmed with that list, and then they just say, "Oh, I'll do it next week."
I'll do that tomorrow. I'm guilty of that for sure.
Oh, we all are.
But yeah, that makes sense though. Like it's just overwhelming. There's only so much that you can remember, and I think taking 10 pages is a good idea. I just yesterday I was at Barnes & Noble, we had to run some errands, and our Barnes and Noble's movie. They're moving locations.
Really? Okay.
And they had big sign-ups at like 50% off, 25% off, something like that. So I was like, stuff's cheap.
Yeah.
Stuff's cheap. So ran in there, and I found Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I've wanted to read that for a long time, and I got it for like $5 or $6. So I was stoked, right? And I haven't picked it up to read it yet. I have a bunch of other stuff going on that I was trying to take care of. But I think it's not a story per se. It's more of like, I think it's more made to be read into like small chunks. And so I'm really excited to dig into that. But
have you started it?
No, I haven't. I just got it last night, and a bunch of other stuff was going on. So I just kind of have it sitting where I'll grab it and read it. And I'm hoping to like get back into that habit again and start reading. And I have a stack of books that I've moved for the last 25, 30 years that I've just had, that somebody's given to me or I've found, and all sorts of different like philosophy and books, classic literature and stuff that I've always said that like, hey, I'm going to read this and become an enlightened human being. And
right.
I haven't done anything with it, or I've tried over the years, but I lost interest for one thing or another. So I'm hoping that book will start me in that habit again of reading, and not just for fun, but like deep reading, like good, you know what I mean? Like
it grabs you.
Well, not reading for something other than just entertainment. Like reading a Stephen King book, light reading or whatever you want to call that, for fun reading. I
like
enjoy fiction. I enjoy that, but like I want to get into the other side of that, like reading nonfiction and actual like literary works, and not just read it, but like understand it and that sort of thing. And that's been hard for me because I kind of need to be able to focus on that and ignore the outside world for a little bit for me to understand. Does that make sense? And there's a lot of distractions in life, so that's kind of hard to do sometimes. But
a lot of distractions.
Yeah, that's my goal. That's my personal goal right now.
Would you ever be interested in like writing a book, like on your experiences in martial arts?
Oh, I would. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. That takes an incredible amount of discipline
to write something.
I think. Yeah. Well, not only that, but like I think. The amount of time that it takes to write before you see the finished result, and like the amount, just like any other big project, like making a movie, like you were talking about with your movie, it took you from the point of conception to the actual release date. How much time was in between that?
Gosh, it's gonna
2
be
years.
Oh, from decide. I mean,
you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a movie, and then. What? How many years later did you have a finished product?
I mean, there was a bunch of stages to it, but yeah, it's usually about a 2-year turnaround. But you got to factor in the script writing process. And, then you've got the script took 6 months to a year to do. Then you've got 1 year of pre-production, and then production, and then a post. So maybe 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and you're still not done.
No.
And it's not released yet.
No.
So like that clock's still ticking.
Clock is still ticking.
And I think the same process must be for a book too, but it's a deeply like that process is a little bit different. Whereas like with a movie, it's not just all on you. You've got like a team working for that, right? It might be you at first, like if you're writing the script by yourself. it's probably you at first, but eventually other people come in and other actors, and then you have like set design and costumes and then editing and props and all of this other stuff. Yeah. So, but like with writing, it's you, unless you have an editor for
maybe
right?
have people looking over your work.
Yeah. So I think
readers,
but it's all like there's nobody going, okay, hey, did you write today?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I don't know that I have the mental fortitude to like do that. I've written a lot. I write a lot. I write in a journal every day. I write a lot, but it's not like coherent structure. It's just my thoughts on the morning or the afternoon or of the day, or what's bothering me, or what it's more of like a place to kind of like put my thoughts down and like go, oh, okay, this is bothering me right now, so this is a way for me to get this out of my head, get it on paper, and then like either forget about it or it's like a holding place for myself.
It's a holding place.
So I write that down and I can like let go of it for a little bit. And sometimes I come back to it, and sometimes that's all I needed to do. Right?
My password's not working.
Yeah.
I gotta write this down.
Or like, hey, I had a great podcast with Tyler this weekend, and like we talked about this and that, and I forgot, I really wanted to mention this, kind of stuff like that. Whereas writing a book, I don't think that would be very entertaining for anyone, right? Like if I was to try and take that journal and be like, oh, this is my book.
Right.
Yeah, good luck.
To do a really good book in this day and age, you need kind of like an editor.
Yeah.
To edit, because we live in an age of self-publishing, which is good.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects.
But it also, there's got to be a reason for people to read it. And I don't think that there's anything there that would make anyone want to read it unless they wanted to see their own, like, if they were related to me or that, you know what I mean? Like, there's really no like my kids might want to read it in 50 years.
You're speaking about your journaling.
My journal. Yeah. I don't know that. But as far as like writing a book on that stuff, that would be awesome.
Sitting down and focusing and saying, I'm going to write a book about XYZ.
Yeah. I've always secretly wanted to do something like that. I just don't.
It's not the right time.
Like if I could not sleep, if I could just stay up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would probably accomplish a lot more. I always said it would be the amazing super human ability if I could like bargain my sleep and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sleep 1 day a week. I'll sleep 24 hours straight, but give me the rest of all of the hours. Let me just do stuff. I think that would be amazing. Could you think about how much stuff you could accomplish? Even like working a full 8-hour day or 10-hour day, and then like I still got 22 hours left.
Until I gotta go back to work. But I've got 22 hours or 20 some hours.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Wow.
My math was wrong. If I worked 10 hours, I'd have 12 hours.
12 hours.
12
hours. Yeah.
14 hours, something like that.
I've got 12 hours to do whatever I want, and I got to go back to work, and then I just got to sleep for 1 day on the weekend.
Yeah. That would be amazing, But unfortunately, we don't work that way.
I mean, you could be like, what if I just slept for a week, and then could I have 2 months?
Whatever. I always... I would daydream about that as like a young, my early 20s or whatever. Be like, oh man, it'd be so great. Think about all the stuff you could do.
If you had all this stuff, that's an idea for a movie, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
But back to the writing thing. I would love to. I just gotta. I don't know that I'm disciplined enough yet to do that. I'm still working on my discipline, which has been a struggle lately.
It does. I mean, I've never written a book. I think one day maybe I don't know. Maybe I might, maybe I won't. But I've written screenplays. I've written 4 screenplays, and the one it was the third screenplay I wrote.
And you made a movie.
We made into a movie. Yeah, and so it took some discipline to sit down and I guess it would be more akin to writing like a novel.
Yeah.
I mean, writing a novel and a screenplay are 2 totally different things, so don't get that confused. But I mean, as far as this is the story, this is what happens, this is the characters, and so, but writing a screenplay and a novel are 2 separate things. Novelists generally don't make good screenwriters, and screenwriters, it's what the writing styles is. You want to write sparse for screenplays, whereas novels, I can't speak to that, but I've read them. They're you can write characters' internal thoughts and what's going on in a character. A screenplay, you can't do that. You only can show what's going to be shown on the movie screen, on your TV. So it's different. But the writing part, it took a lot of discipline. All 4 screenplays that I wrote, and one screenplay, the first screenplay I wrote in film school, took me. I took a screenwriting class in film school, and just absolutely was just loved the class, loved screenwriting, really liked my professor. And for that screenplay class, your project, like your final for that class, was you had to turn in half of a certain amount of pages of a screenplay, which was usually about half of a screenplay. Oh, really? Okay. So you literally, to pass that class, you had to write about, let's say, 45, 50 pages of a screenplay.
Wow.
And so I wrote 45 to 50 pages of a screenplay, and as soon as I turned that in, man, I stopped, and I had this half-finished screenplay that for the next year, it was the next 7 months until the following spring or fall semester. I wrote it in a spring semester, and then I didn't pick it up. What happened is then I took an advanced screenwriting class with the same professor, and he said, okay, in this class, if you took my class before, you can either start and do another 50 pages of a screenplay, or you can finish the one that you started in my previous screenwriting class if you didn't already finish it. And I was like, man, I've been sitting on this thing for 7 months. Like, yeah, I want to finish it. And so I finished it in that class. But man, even having that structure of a class and deadlines, like, that was tough. But then I did it, and I was like, oh, I've done one. Now I can do a second one. My second one, I never finished.
Okay.
In fact, my professor told me I need to throw that screenplay out and throw that idea away, and it was a terrible idea. And he was right. It was not a good idea. So I've got the 30 pages that I wrote for that, for something else, and then I started another one. My third screenplay, never finished that one either.
Okay.
I got about 2/3 of the way through that one, didn't finish that one. It wasn't until I attempted my 4th screenplay that I finished that one. And then my 5th screenplay, which is the one me and my friend wrote, and we just made that one into a movie. And then my friend and I, the same friend, made a 6th screenplay. So I've actually done 6 attempts at writing, but I've only finished 4. I still have 2 the one that I got 2/3 of the way through. I still want to go back and finish that one at some point, but it needs some work. But what comes out of that is I got this mat time, so to speak, is that I was spending time doing it.
Well, yeah, you're figuring out what's working, what's not working, what you need to work on. Yeah, exactly, and what's the good ideas that drive through. So all these screenplays that I've written, the 4 that I've finished and the 2 that are unfinished, or technically one was just like, okay, I'm not gonna keep going on that one. But it really taught me about. If I'm gonna start a screenplay, I want to finish it now. And I couldn't have got to that point. Even if it's like an idea that you're like, oh, this isn't panning out. Well, at this point,
what had happened is I hadn't thought those two fully out.
Okay, so you went like, oh, here's an idea, let's just go.
And I just go, and you can do that. That will work sometimes for writing.
Yeah.
It's a known thing. You can do that. You can hop in your car and say, I'm going to drive to the East Coast with no map, no GPS. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
you know,
it might not be the most efficient way.
And it won't be the most efficient. It might take you a long time, but you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that, and you can do that in screenwriting. But it's better to map it out. And so that just taught me, like, hey, I'm not going to start a screenplay unless I have it outlined, at least in my head. But that you want to get it on paper, and then you outline it, and then say, this is where it starts, this is the middle, and this is the end. And then now I'm like, okay, and it's committing to something without saying, well, I'm going to back out of it. And so that's the thing now where I'm like, I'm not going to write anything unless I know I'm going to finish it. And if I know if I'm going to finish it, it's by having an outline of this is where it's going to go. And your outline can change. You can start with a great outline. It's happened to me. You start with a great outline, you get halfway, 2/3 through, and you're like, oh, nope, it needs to go this way. And you can change it, you know, but having an outline when you start, it's like that Mike Tyson quote. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, then you got to adjust your plan.
Yeah. Or keep getting punched in the face.
Or keep getting punched in the face.
Right on.
But that's what I found. And so, but yeah, writing is definitely, and you're right. There's no one, generally for the most part, unless you have an editor or you have an agent or you have a movie producer paying me, to write a screenplay. You don't have someone pushing you to get it done. So it's all on you or me, I should say. Yeah. Which is good because then it's like this thing never gets done. And my friend and I wrote our screenplay, and then we had so many rewrites on it, the one we just made into a movie. And now it's like I look back at all those times we met up and we wrote for 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 hours. We worked on screenplay a day. We had 12-hour days working on that screenplay.
Sure, yeah.
And I look back at it and I'm like, man, now it's all paying off because now it's been turned into a movie.
Yeah. And you almost go through the whole process again because you got the movie made and now you got to finish it, do the editing and the sound and whatnot. And then it's like you get that done and then you got to go kind of back to square one and distribute.
Yep.
So it's a process over and over.
They say there's a saying that there's the movie you write, the movie you shoot, and the movie you edit. And those can be three different movies.
Yeah.
And then you still got to do, like you said, distribution. So, and I'm sure the same thing with a book, a novel or self-help book. It changes. So, but that's the writing that I can relate to is screenplays, and it takes a lot of discipline and effort.
Very cool. Very cool.
I could see you totally writing a book one day.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I'd write about right at this moment. That kind of that blindsided me a little bit. That was good.
I didn't mean to do that.
No, that was good though. Maybe I will. Wow. Hey, so the movie's coming along then. Speaking of movies, it's almost through the editing process, or are you still working on the editing?
No, we did some pickup shots yesterday for the film. We got, I would say, about 97-98% of the film edited, and we're refining some of the scenes, shaving off a second here, a second there, 5 seconds here. And then we said, we need some, then we showed the rough edit to some people, and we said, hey, what do you guys think? And some people were confused about some things, and they said, well, can you have an insert shot of something here? Or
just to kind of clarify or explain some stuff?
Yeah. So we did some reshoots yesterday. We had the van. It's a road trip comedy. So yesterday we went out and did some reshoots of the van driving past the camera because I still have the van.
Yeah.
I bought the van. I'm going to keep the van for the sequels, So, so we did that, and so the movie is almost 100% locked edit, and then when you get the locked edit, of the film. Then we're going to send it out to the composers. Then we're going to send it out to the people that are going to do the color correcting. Then we send it out to the people doing the sound effects. So it's a multi-stage process, but it all stems from getting the editing done. Because you can't compose music to a film that you're still adding 5 seconds into this scene.
Makes sense.
It messes up the music.
The music's got to match the scene.
Yeah, and what's going on screen.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
But we're aiming to have it done and ready for distribution by next March. That's our goal.
Okay.
That may change, but we put that as a goal for us to aim.
Yeah.
Aim at.
Yeah, that way you have something to work towards.
If you aim for nothing, there's like a saying: if you aim for nothing, you'll hit nothing, or something like that.
That's interesting. I have to have a sit down talk with Hunter about that because he's getting ready to, he's the testing for his black belt is going to be on the radar here soon. So I know Joe's looking forward to that too. So I've got to sit down with him. And the other night I was messing with him. We were driving to class actually. And I'm like, hey, you have to give a 10-minute unprepared, off the top of your head speech in front of everybody that shows up for your test. Did you know that? I mess with everybody. Like my family, I mess with them all. And
I was like, wait,
he is not one. He's very quiet. Like he doesn't talk. We're driving. The part of the reason why I did this is because we were in the car. We were driving to the school, and he won't talk. Like if there's nothing to say, he's not a type of person to be like, ooh, look at that car, or oh wow, it's sure a nice day. Like no small talk. We don't do small talk. Very, very rarely. And so in order to like prompt him to talk, I just said this to him, like, hey, you're gonna have to give this speech when you take the black belt test. And it's a requirement for you to get your black belt. So like it's 10 minutes timed, and it can't be prepared. You just have to like say something, And he's like, what? Like, are you kidding? Are you real? And I just kept rolling with it, right? We get to the dojo, we do our class, and we're driving home, and he's like, you were pulling my leg, right? You weren't kidding? No, man. That was, well, when did you guys, when did that come up? How did that rule get invented? And I'm like, Sensei Court called everybody, all of the black belts together, and we had a meeting, and we all discussed about the test and how we don't think it was hard enough, and we need to make it a little harder, and that was the consensus. So you got to do all the stuff that we've already done. So you have to actually have the physical test, the written test, and then you got to do the speech in front of everybody. And his eyes, I swear to God, they're like giant at this point. He's like freaking out. All right? Because he could, like, he's very studious. If you told him to write a book and that was part of his requirement, he'd go do it.
He'd do it.
He'd do it. And it'd be about anything you wanted. He'd go do it.
He's a doer.
Yeah. But, like, to spring that on him in the middle of, he was not prepared for that one at all. And so, all the way home, are you real? Are you being for real, Dad? You're joking with me, right? We get home.
You're holding it.
I held it in, yeah. We get into the driveway. We pull in the driveway, and I'm like, at this point, I'm dying. And I finally look over, and I'm like, I'm just messing with you, man. Don't worry. That was like, it was probably a half-hour trip, 45 minutes, somewhere in there, from the school to my house. You get in the house, he's like, Mom, you can't believe what Dad did to me. He wouldn't shut up at that point. It was awesome.
That's funny.
It was good times. Good times. But I don't know where I was going with that, other than the fact that I was harassing my child and probably giving him post-traumatic stress.
You were giving him something to aim for.
Yeah.
As far as the black belt test.
Oh yeah, so we're starting to talk about that and like when to schedule it and all of, making sure that he has all of his things that he needs to have done, ready to go for him to cross that bridge. So it's exciting.
And it's kind of like when we were getting ready to do our black belt test, we like went to Sensei and we were like, we're ready. Let's set down a date. We got to have something to aim for, because otherwise we're just
gonna keep pushing it back, and then it never happens.
And that's kind of like that's kind of like a black belt mentality. It is
absolutely
really, to say this is when I'm testing.
Yeah, well, and
it's almost like your first step.
Yeah, to
absolutely. Say I'm determining.
I'm ready for this to happen. Yeah, I'm gonna get prepared, or I'm prepared for this to happen, one way or the other.
Like a black belt determines timing. Like that's.
Oh yeah, the wheel. Everything's a circle.
It's
just
circle.
Coming back around again.
Yeah, and the black belt says, hey, this is when I'm ready to test. Because if you remember, Sensei for us, he didn't
approach us about it.
He didn't approach us, and there was one day you and I were talking, and we were right out here in the dojo next to the mats, and I was like, yeah, well, like when are we gonna test? And you're like, I think he's waiting for us to come to him and tell him when we're ready.
Yeah, I recall that.
You were the one that told me.
Yeah.
And then we brought it up with a couple of the other black belts, and then we decided like, hey, this is the date. And then I think we did determine an initial date, and then for some reason we pushed it
back.
We pushed it back. It wasn't due to lack of training. It was just something as far as. There was something that happened, and we all agreed, well, we need to just push it back.
Yeah, and it wasn't a whole long period of time.
It was like a month later or something, or a couple months, yeah. So I want to say it was like we initially said September, and then we said, no, let's push it back to October.
We're coming up on that
2-year
real
mark.
Fast. 2-year mark. Dude.
That's crazy. And I have there's that saying, I've heard it said before. Sensei Blue was talking about this. He was saying about how one of his students talked about how he had his black belt for like 2 years, and then one day he went in.
That's right. And he actually felt like a black belt. Like, today I'm a black belt.
Today I'm a black belt. And I had a similar moment actually last week. I went to put on, we're talking last week.
Yeah.
I went to put on my black belt for class, and I noticed my black belt had started to fray and fade a little bit on the edges.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, there's some wear on this black belt.
Yeah.
It's got some character.
It's got a little character.
And then I was like, oh, I feel... I felt like a black belt.
Before
the test. I was like, let's get this done. But last week, I was like, I feel more like a black belt.
Yeah. It took me a couple weeks to get comfortable with that whole idea. Whereas I remember you were talking about, like, when you put that on, you were like, this is it. I'm rocking and rolling now. And whereas I kind of felt the opposite. I kind of was like expecting somebody to come out from behind the corner and be like, not that guy. No, not you.
Yeah, you've got it, but you're not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's more of a fuchsia colored belt. Whatever.
Like the day we tested, and I went over to put something in my gear bag, and one of the students that was lower ranking at the time, who is now higher ranking, and they said congratulations, Tyler. And in my head, I turned and looked at him, and in my head I said, it's Sensei. So I believed it. That day I was like, yep, I'm there.
But you know, and that's good. I mean, that's the right mentality to have, I think. There was no way you were leaving that building without it. And on the same token, neither was I. I'd waited and waited and waited for this to happen, and that was like I was going to die before somebody tried to take that away from me. But that was just that's how my mind works. Like I just was like, I was waiting for something like that to happen. Like, oh, nah, not you. But it was good. It was good. And it was a good time. But I can't believe that, dude. 2 years. We're coming up. 2 years.
2 years.
In 2 months.
2 years.
We got to do something.
Celebrate.
We got to celebrate that. We should get the whole group back together and do something.
Our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
You know.
In honor of that. Dude, we've been at it for a while here, and we got an hour in. We got to call it a night and or a morning, afternoon, whatever you want to call it. We got to call it a day and focus on some other things. But before we go, please stay tuned. We got some more stuff in the works that we've been working on, talking to some other people about being a guest, possibly working out some other things where we can be on somebody else's show here soon. Also, as always, reach out to us at any of the social media links. We got an email, formlesspod@gmail.com. The Twitter, which we're formally known as Marital Artists. We are not marital artists. We are martial artists. Formless_the at Twitter, or now X, whatever whomever, whatever. Also, we have a Facebook group called the Formless Podcast. Join us there. We post videos and talk, and we don't really chat a whole lot on there, but we post updates to the website, to the group, or to the podcast on there. We have a Instagram page called the Formless Podcast. On there, pretty frequent.
And can I put in I talk a lot about my movie. Movie coming out. We do have an Instagram page. It's called Mighty Men of Valor. Excuse me, that's the Facebook page. The Facebook page is called Mighty Men of Valor. And you can hear all the updates for our movie on Mighty Men of Valor on the Facebook page. And the movie is called Miracle Mile. And then on Instagram, it's mmov.productions. We put out the information. That's Mighty Men of Valor.productions.
I'm sure there's some people that would be willing to, that have been chomping at the bit to listen to this.
Yeah, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and that's where we'll put all the release info on there. And we're also working on some more movies, and I'll be talking about that hopefully on this podcast too.
Awesome. Take care, friends.